Hello, and welcome to Popcorn News. Something to watch while you eat popcorn. On February 20th, 1862, discussion in the House of Representatives focused upon how Senate amendments seemed set to sabotage constitutional money. Abraham Lincoln's greenbacks. House of Representatives, Thursday, February 20th, 1862. The House met at 12 o'clock. Prayer by the chaplain, Reverend Thomas H. Stockton. The Treasury note bill. Mr. Stevens, I ask the unanimous consent of the House to repeat the amendment which I offered yesterday after the word interest in the 7th Amendment of the Senate. It is necessary in order to make the bill homogeneous. And there he is, Stevens. Thaddeus Stevens. Da-da-da. But Mr. Roscoe Conkling objects. Here he is, Roscoe Conkling. Served as bodyguard for Representative Thaddeus Stevens. And there he is, Stevens. So then we go to Mr. Hooper. And he is nearly, as I can determine, was Samuel Hooper. There he is, Samuel Hooper. Okay, and here's where we get to the exceptions in the strategizing to ruin the Civil War greenbacks. This bill declares that for all dues to the government, for all payments by the government, these greenbacks shall be received the same as coin. And when they say coin, that means gold or silver. One way to make them the same as coin would be to make them at all times convertible into coin. But this is where the Senate was trying to introduce an amendment which requires interest on government notes and bonds, interest on government debt, in other words, has to be paid in coin, which means in gold or silver. That means the greenbacks would not be accepted for interest on government debt. And if that amendment is added, its effect will be to depreciate these greenbacks as compared with coin by declaring them in advance to be so depreciated. Two forces were engaged in a tug of war. Would the government be the issuer of our money, or would private bankers control the money supply? The government had to pay in coin, meaning in gold or silver. The private bankers also claimed to be paying in coin, but via banknotes, which were supposed to represent gold hidden in the bankers' vaults. But the private bankers were doing something slippery. For every ounce of gold they had in their vaults, they would issue 10 or even more banknotes, all claiming to be redeemable on demand. And sometimes all 10 persons holding those different notes might all appear at the bank together. And then there would be only 1 ounce of gold for all 10 of the banknotes. So you can see that private bankers can be slippery as eels. If you issued notes, in other words, wrote checks, for money you didn't have, they would say you had been writing bad checks. But when private bankers do this, they call it fractional reserve banking. In the following video clip, notice 2 things. 1, Congresswoman Maxine Waters can't get a straight answer from the chairman. And 2, Congressman Sean Duffy can't get a straight answer from Janet Yellen.
Does the lady have a parliamentary inquiry?
The inquiry could be considered parliamentary. I understand the gentleman to say that they subpoenaed the feds and did not, it was ignored. Is that what he meant?
The gentlelady is not stating a parliamentary inquiry, and as I think is the ranking member knows, the time of the chair is limited. If other members wish to pursue that in their questioning, they may pursue it in their questioning. The chair now recognizes...
A lot of exciting things to chat about you with Chair Yellen, but as the chairman of the Oversight Committee, I do have some concerns about your willingness to comply with our requests. We sent a letter in the Medley investigation, in our oversight of the Fed, asking you for information in regard to communication. No compliance. Then we sent you a subpoena in May. You did not comply with that. We had partial compliance in October. We're now a year after my initial letter. I've asked you for excerpts of the FMOC transcripts in regard to the discussion in regard to the internal investigation on Medley. You have not provided those to me. Is your intent today now to promise that I will have those, if not this afternoon, tomorrow?
Well, Congressman, I discussed this matter with Chairman Hensarling and indicated that we have some concern
Well, why don't we talk about it right now?
Providing these transcripts.
Finding the transcripts?
I said with providing transcripts, given their importance in monetary policy.
So let me be
and
clear.
I received a note back from Chairman Hensarling last night, quite late, indicating your response to that, and we will consider it and get back to you.
No, I don't want you to consider it. And I think the chairman would agree with me that this is a conversation not about monetary policy. This is not market-moving stuff. This is about the investigation and the conversation of a leak inside of your organization. So this institution is entitled to those documents. Would you agree?
I will get back to you with a formal answer. I believe that we have provided you
That's not my question for you,
with
Chair
all
Yellen.
relevant information.
If I'm not entitled to it, can you give me the privilege that you're going to exert that's going to let me know why I'm not entitled to those documents?
I said that we received, well after the close of business yesterday, a letter explaining your reasoning.
Chair
and
Yellen.
I will need some time to discuss this matter with my staff before I give you a final answer.
I don't want to, listen, I sent you a letter a year ago on February 5th. I had to send you a subpoena. You knew that I'm looking for these documents. You knew I was going to ask you about this today. So if you're not going to give me the documents, exert your privilege. Tell me your legal authority why you're not going to provide this to us. If this is market moving, I would be sensitive to that. This is not monetary policy conversations. This is about the internal workings of the Fed. And I'm not asking for all the transcripts. I'm just actually asking for the excerpts specific to our investigation and oversight of the Fed. Let me ask you this. You get to oversee banks. If you make a request to a bank for information a year ago, and they say, let me review with my board, let me talk about it, but they never comply with your request for documents or information, what would the Fed do?
I think we have complied
That's not my-
very fully with the
Yellen,
requests that you've made.
I'm asking you, what would you do if you had made that kind of request to a bank that you oversee? What would you do?
We work with banks to make sure we have access to the information.
And if they
needed
didn't,
for
I can't
oversight.
imagine what the Fed would do if someone didn't comply with your request. And guess what? We're entitled to the documents. We expect to get them unless you exert a privilege, and there is no privilege that you have. So I expect they'll come over. I yield back.
Mr.
Does
Chairman,
anybody have a parliamentary inquiry?
the inquiry could be considered parliamentary. I understand the gentleman to say that they subpoenaed the feds and did not, it was ignored. Is that what he meant?
The gentlelady is not stating a parliamentary inquiry, and as I think is the ranking member knows, the time of the chair is limited. If other members wish to pursue that in their questioning, they may pursue it in their questioning. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from
As nearly as I can figure out, the subpoena which the privately owned Federal Reserve has been defying in violation of law involves a leak from the Fed which amounted to insider trading. That was reported by Reuters back on January 15th of this year. Are you fed up with the Fed? Are you fed up with how they have been monkeying with the money supply? How about we pay them the $20 trillion we owe and then say, adios, amigos, to Federal Reserve. Here's how. Debt. That is what the Federal Reserve does. The more debt they can foist, the more interest they can collect. We now approach a $20 trillion national debt. But suppose the Congress tucked in a little law, hidden somewhere in, say, the agriculture bill. A line buried therein which orders the U.S. Treasury to print a single $20 trillion constitutional greenback. It would look something like this, except it would be for $20 trillion, and instead of a picture of George Washington, you could have, maybe a picture of Hillary Clinton or Sarah Palin, which would make the feminists happy. What more would they want? A $20 trillion constitutional greenback with one of the women on the cover. I mean, you can't ask for more. Suppose that the little law tucked inside the agriculture bill ordered that the single $20 trillion greenback with either Sarah Palin's or Hillary Clinton's picture on it is to be delivered to Federal Reserve in payment of all debt. This would completely erase the national debt and would be the Appomattox of Federal Reserve. Thank you for watching Popcorn News.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna shoot you right down, right off of your feet. Take you home with me, put you in my house.